global temperatures have risen by about 1 degree Celsius, 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit, since the late 19th century, with the majority of this warming occurring in the last few decades. Human activities, primarily the burning of fossil fuels such as coal, oil, and gas, have been the primary cause of the increase in greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, which trap heat and cause global warming. The effects of global warming include rising sea levels, more frequent and severe heat waves, changes in precipitation patterns, more intense storms, and increased frequency and severity of wildfires. The melting of Arctic sea ice has decreased by about 13% per decade since the late 1970s. The Earth's average surface temperature is projected to continue to rise, with estimates ranging from 1.5 degrees Celsius to 4.5 degrees Celsius by the end of the 21st century, depending on future greenhouse gas emissions. Climate change is having a significant impact on ecosystems and wildlife, with many species struggling to adapt to the rapid changes. Climate change is also impacting human health, with increased heat waves and air pollution contributing to respiratory problems and other health issues. The impacts of global warming are unevenly distributed, with the world's poorest and most vulnerable communities often suffering the most. The ocean absorbs approximately 25% of carbon dioxide emissions from human activities, leading to ocean acidification and impacts on marine ecosystems and food webs. Glaciers and ice caps around the world are melting at an accelerating rate, contributing to sea level rise. Climate change is expected to have significant economic impacts, with estimates suggesting that the costs of climate change could reach trillions of dollars by the end of the century. The impacts of global warming are not limited to the physical environment but can also have social and political consequences, including displacement, conflict, and migration. There is a growing recognition that addressing global warming will require not only reducing greenhouse gas emissions but also adapting to the changes that are already underway. Many solutions to address global warming already exist, including renewable energy, energy efficiency, and carbon capture and storage technologies. However, significant policy and societal changes will be necessary to accelerate their adoption and deployment. Despite the urgency of the issue, global emissions of greenhouse gases continue to rise, and many countries are not on track to meet their climate goals. The impacts of global warming are not inevitable, and there is still time to take action to mitigate and adapt to the changes. However, urgent and sustained efforts are needed to address this critical issue. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, is a scientific body established by the United Nations to assess the science related to climate change. Its reports provide the most comprehensive and up-to-date information on the state of climate science. The impacts of global warming are not limited to environmental and economic concerns. They also have significant implications for social justice, with the most vulnerable populations often being the most impacted. Climate change is a global issue, and international cooperation and coordination will be necessary to effectively address it. The Paris Agreement is a significant step in this direction, but continued efforts will be necessary to ensure its goals are met. The impacts of global warming are already being felt around the world, with more frequent and severe weather events, melting glaciers and ice caps, and rising sea levels. These impacts are expected to become more severe in the coming decades. The impacts of global warming are not limited to the future but are also affecting the present. The costs of climate change are already being felt in terms of economic losses, displacement, and health impacts. There is no single solution to addressing global warming. Rather, a combination of mitigation and adaptation strategies will be necessary to effectively address this complex and multifaceted issue. While global warming is a global issue, individual actions can make a significant difference. Simple steps such as reducing energy consumption, driving less, and eating a plant-based diet can all help reduce greenhouse gas emissions.